Boom. So, hey everybody, welcome to the Shani Shay and Nia J show. We are here with our special guest of the week, Jonathan Bertrand. Let's give him a round of applause. Woohoo! And so Jonathan is the social media doctor, so to speak. And he's going to tell us about, we talk a lot about the education and incarceration intersection, but he's going to talk to us about the social media and incarceration and education intersection. So thank you so much, Jonathan, for being with us today. And I'm going to kick it off with the first question. Just tell us who you are and how did you get into this work?
Okay, so my name is Jonathan Bertrand, and I'm a 26-year-old African-American male introducing and integrating a new medium of understanding, and it's social media awareness in the online space. Now, for many people, 10 years ago when I first started, I was someone that used to get bullied online, and I tell people I had two options: pull the trigger or create the solution. And you see I chose the second option. And, a lot of people 10 years ago, I'm 26, at the time I was 15, just turned 26. People really didn't understand how social media affected your online mental and behavioral health. And that what you did in the real world eventually translated into your online world, and eventually what happened in your online world translated into your real world. And I went from making good grades, no record, no type of, stitch or polish, you can say. I was very even keel. Nobody questioned me. I could walk into a room and you would never know I hurt somebody because I would never do something like that based off perception. So got bullied in person, got bullied online. So I was getting physical abuse and psychological abuse. And I also found out that in the online world, it's 10 times harder to beat or to address when users of social media are also engaged, watching, and no longer know themselves in the actual space. So I set out in 2014 to develop and, rebrand and develop social media awareness after 4 years. And I ended up starting what I called the Post Responsibly campaign. What's your story? Because I've learned that everyone has a story, no matter where you're from, and social media doesn't discriminate. It literally is what it is, and you adjust it as it fits. So from 2014 to 2016, I went to Florida A&M, and I was so adamant about not just addressing the social media persona, as I based it off of some Black history, W.E.B. Du Bois's double conscious theory in The Veil. And I took his book of Souls of Black Folk and said, okay, if African Americans in 1903, based on his studies of self-inflection and research at Frisk, goes through all this stuff and he's addressing his psyche and others, what can I do as an African American in the online space, knowing that it's built against me, knowing that I already have 3 or 4 strikes because I'm Black, I'm a male, and they think I gotta work 2 times harder than the next person. So I ended up going to the National Council of Behavioral Health. And this is where the national conversation began. How does social media affect the youth? How does it affect individuals that are put into situations where their social media persona leads up to them doing something that they'll regret? And I spent my last 2 years creating the platform for a proactive approach instead of a reactive approach. And that's how we were able to address things such as social media dependency, the cyber psychoanalysis, understanding people's cyber subconscious. That's a whole other load of people, but cyber subconscious, your persona online, the style you build your profiles to be is who you, in my eyes, are really, whether you show it or not in the physical. Because as you manifest, you become. So that's what I do. That's what we've developed. And when I do tell people doctor of social media, I want to make this clear on record, I do not have a PhD, but I teach doctors. I work with hospitals. I work with facilities, and they gave me that name. So for people that are out there that are very academically sound and very aggressive on that, I like to make that very clear because we are pioneering those terms, and that's what we do, and that's what we look to do. And thank you for inviting me on this conversation.
That was like really great, especially when you was like, what the things that people show online is who they truly are. And I would just venture to say that, like, I look at, I have, so for Incarceration of College, there's a page. And so
Okay.
what I do is I follow a lot of youth, right? I'll go down a rapper's page, who's ever hot in the city, and I'll find out and because I want to know, like, where is a young demographic at? And long story short, what you see is these portrayals, right? And it's very, and for me, even, right, like using my own, what I know about psychology, I can identify what type of lifestyle these youth want to lead, and how do I interact with them to show them a different path, or a different route, or the route that I would encourage them to be on. So I really, what you said for me really rung true. You said that you was a Black male, right? And I would just like to, first I'll say, on this show we talk about formerly incarcerated and systems impacted. Formerly incarcerated is people like myself who have been incarcerated. Systems impacted are people that have been impacted by the system. I say that's everyone, however, people have their own ideas and parameters. So the question is, what is your experience with the carceral system?
So I did not go to jail, but I was Baker Acted. So I was to a mental facility. And I was given two options for that, because the way I ended up there was I was getting bullied, and I made a post online, and I made a really bad threat, but I was young to act on my words. So one of those things I had to learn, when people know you to act on your words, and you post something that is either going to potentially harm somebody, harm yourself, the law don't play, and they don't care if you have a record or not. They will come to your house, pick you up, and in the state of Florida, Baker Act you. And it's one of those things where I also had to learn too that your words are powerful. And being someone that really doesn't like to be told no, or being put in restraints, going to that facility and being on lockdown, not being able to have access to electronics, having access to the outside world where you're literally medicated. You're medicated, where I never before had to take medication until then. And I realized, I said, I don't belong here. Like, I do not belong here. Like, I was going through something, and the school system was protecting the bully, and I was seeking help. I was asking for help. I was begging for help. And I had to contact the superintendent. Mind you, I went to a predominantly white school. So my demographic was not very prevalent in that school. It was known. And I felt like another number. And it wasn't until someone has to threaten to take someone's life at a high school for the whole department, or the whole, school system of that realm to interact or intervene. But they intervened on me. But I had to make a post on a social media platform where the superintendent got involved, the VPs got involved, everybody got involved. But you would have never known if I would have never made the post. So why do I have to go to that extreme? One of my biggest issues, I have to be interrogated by school officials, which was the legal. They saw me as a Black. It was made very clear, my type. So as fighting, I was fighting a system that people like. And then being put into that facility, I also learned that it's a business. It's a big business. And I'm gonna keep it real. I was in a group, and this executive said, "Oh, for every person we put in, it's like $200,000 for every single get met." So I can only imagine the system is. I can only imagine what it is for people in mental facility normally would never be there, but are put there. They had a moment in time that they could express themselves, and they were subject to that treatment because of an assumption, instead of giving the proper treatment to get rehabilitated. And that was something that I was seeking but never got until after the fact.
Yeah, you had a lot of powerful statements there. And I think that that actually leads perfectly into the next question of like we see from your story like how social media can be used to construe the narrative, but how can it be used to change the narrative in a more positive and uplifting way? And also I just want to note your connection was going a little bit in and out.
What
So
was?
yeah, it's just like a tad, but
Okay.
it was like your audio was okay, but your video froze a few times.
Oh, okay, okay.
I think you're good
Oh,
now.
okay. So sorry, where do I start? I apologize.
It's okay. No, the next question is just how can social media be used to change the narrative?
Okay, right. So the way social media can be used to change the narrative is to one, understand why you use it. So one of the things that I myself had to learn, I'm going back to myself again, because I was the perfect case study, negative and positive, almost lost everything, had to gain it all back, is to know why you use each platform. So for example, if you use Facebook, Facebook is a family-oriented site. So that's what you use it for. Instagram is for photos and videos, but mainly photos. It's instant memories. That's what people should be using it for. TikTok, 15-second, 30-second videos, a minute video. You use it for entertainment purposes. But once you start venturing out to, okay, let me post guns, let me weed, let me post anything that will get me arrested, you're building a record for yourself in a place where thousands of people that may follow you, hundreds of people that may follow you, now build this persona about you. So I always remind people that to change the narrative, you have to control the narrative. And when you control the narrative, you're the one that gives them what they read, what they see. So it took me 8 years to change my narrative. But I had to build a movement. I had to go panels. I mean, at one time I had over 27,000 posts. I had to hire someone to go through my social media to knock it down to 8,500 posts in the course of a year. And the narrative for me, for people, was hardcore, unapproachable, straightforward and blunt, and just, about business. But when they actually got to know me, I like to party. I like to have fun. I'm an approachable person. I go for coffee. We can be real, very transparent. And it took time. So for the younger people that may be watching, or anybody that coaches young individuals, tell them the narrative is controlled by them, not society in the online society. Because they're going to get sucked in so quickly, which I was one of those, who needed approval, needed validation because I was missing something. I wasn't addressing past traumas. So the traumas were playing out as a narrative online, and I didn't even realize it. Through the memes, through the repost, through the videos. You can go back right now and see post my college years of what I was dealing with. Still have not deleted those, but they're there. So everything posted a timeline, and the narrative is yours to control. It's all up to you. Do you really want to do it, or are you going to let them control it? And that's when you know your power.
Hold on, I said, say it one more time for the people in the back. Let me tell you something. Look, you ain't met, like you said, you ain't been arrested a few times, but I got young life. I mean, brothers, little brothers and sisters that committed crimes. They put it on the internet, and they doing 50 years in the feds right now. And that's like facts. And I would just say that, and now, to those of the people that are watching that don't respect the criminal lifestyle, it is something to be said, though, about that. You see time and time again, the need for approval. And it's like, anyways, like I said, say that one more time for the people in the back, because it's like, what is you doing it for? And then it puts this way bigger pressure. And also, like you said, rebuilding your narrative, right? Like, you're going to be someone else. So yeah, I had to just yell that out, because when you said, I was like, oh my goodness, how many emojis can you drop? Because this person said it all right now. So before we get into watching a a short video about like some prisoners TikTok, or I want to say prisoners, people that are incarcerated that are TikToking and using social media in more of a fun way, but also in a highly communicative way. Also, I would like to ask you, how do you observe and interact with the incarcerated community online? So, in terms of any organizations, videos, prisoners, incarcerated people themselves, how do you interact with that group?
So actually, I watch from a third party. So because this is the first time that I've actually ever in depth talked about, you know, prisoners, contraband, or inmates, I should say, integrating that specifically, because I know it's still a controversial topic. And for those people that have that type of stuff with them, it can get them in trouble. So one thing I have watched and observed is more so inmates making money online through their phone. So I've watched actual e-com like celebrities put these prisoners on their social media accounts, and some of these individuals are my very good friends. And part of me is like, it's cool to you, but you don't understand that, if there was a law to pass, if there isn't one already, if you were caught online with them, could you be held liable? And these are the kind of things where I let people know that when you start introducing these type of variables to the justice system, you're going to have them rewrite the laws. And I'm seeing right here, there in 2010, actually, there was the Cell Phone Contraband Act. And this act was to limit cell phones being used in prisons, in jails, and more. So, this is only 10 years old? So I'm looking like, well, now it's becoming a topic, and now we're creating the terms to address these things. Having a phone in jail, to me, or prison, depending on the process or what you've done, I honestly think it can be integrated. I was talking to someone that was actually in a halfway house recently, a 64-year-old male, and he was trying to go to college, but they wouldn't let him use a computer, but he was able to use a phone. So I was like, that doesn't make any sense, because the phone is, to me, more powerful than the computer. So it's something that if we're going to restrict people, there at least needs to be tiers to it. And I honestly believe, and this is a different conversation than what I had last time with you, because I thought about it logically, and I said, hold up, taking it away doesn't make sense, because the way we're going, it's going to get worse. And I'm reading reports, reading studies where, in a year time frame, the contraband, they said, was 6,000 shanks, and now it's 6,000 phones. So, for one, it was in 2019 in North Carolina, I have the study. And it's one of those things where, if we're going to start this conversation, we need to have solutions. And y'all are starting that process, and I respect it, because I'm not from California, but I know you guys are very forward thinking. And if this conversation can lead to programs being created for the justice system, or one test trial of, if you are on parole or on release, these are the guidelines. Instead of banning someone from not using social media, this is what we'll follow. We'll track your persona. And if this persona matches against the law, then you could be held liable. But cold turkey stopping people, once they're out of that specific bind of bars and everything, it's gonna, like you said, lead them back into a system of cycle. There's no teaching, there's no education on it. So we needed to develop that to teach them. That's the whole point of this. That's the whole point of social media awareness.
I think that's a perfect segue into our next question, which is, right now in the state of California, they are trying to implement technology rollouts in the form of tablets, right? And a lot of the carceral system, like, a lot of technology is commodified, where, like, yes, they have tablets, but you have to put money on the tablet to be able to use it for entertainment purposes. Like, there are many possibilities currently for, like, educational purposes. So we want to know from your perspective, like what are some impacts, like what are some potential, like, positive impacts that can come about from bringing tablets into prisons, because right now there's currently no substance.
Right, I'm sorry, let me clarify. No, so I give you guys, so we could be clear about the subject. So right now, specifically in California, they're thinking about bringing the tablets, everyone is gonna actually get a tablet. Tablets are already coming into the jails. What is not coming in, everyone will have is a laptop, right? And so the reasoning behind this is that laptops offer access to education, right? Education, we know, is honestly, what helps people to not recidivate, right? What helps us to be able to change our lives. That said, the laptops will be more highly restricted, and for the use of education, all these things are for the use of communication. And when you talk about the racketeering in terms of the amount of money that's cost, it is entertainment, but it's also email. So to send an email, it costs 5 cents, right? To communicate, it costs money. And so I just want to give that clarity around the fact that everybody's going to get a tablet, and then they'll be able to pay. And then some people will have access to laptops for schooling purposes. And then, of course, I'll restate the question. I apologize. What do you think about the impact of that?
Okay, so what I think about the impact of that, now that I know that, because I didn't know that, I thought they were still like, rolling it out. So the stuff I'm reading, that's different. But I mean, there's always a positive. There's always a positive. Politics is all about the negative. What's the negative? So as we look at the positive, giving someone a tablet isn't the problem. It's more so who controls the access. And if the prison controls the access, then okay, how are they integrating that? Is it just a general, you can't go to Facebook, you can't go to this, and that's it? Or, and maybe this is something new. I don't know the systems, never heard of it, but I'm just throwing stuff out there. Maybe it can be where, they have an ID, right? They have their inmate ID. And the inmate ID, when they get checked into the prison, this is their tablet, and this tablet only has these restrictions. And maybe it's just literally the registered people on your contact list, and that is it. And that is it. Then as you get into the system more, you get offered schooling, but you can only access specifically those sites, nothing else. Everything else is restricted. So you have to submit the codes, you have to submit, the specific web address. So regulation into that as well. Now, will it help? Oh, yes, it will be perfect for them because one, they won't be delayed on technology once they do get released, because that's also something I've realized, and I've watched it firsthand from family members who were 20 years delayed and they didn't even know what a cell phone was. They're like, what's a cell phone? How do you use this? And this is like high technology to them. So, that gap will also be tightened as well. But also when it comes to the commercialization and funding, from what I was reading, some prisons are charging $1 per minute. Some are charging $2 for 15 minutes. It depends on the state regulation and what they're doing. So these are the kind of things where, when you say, okay, now we're giving someone a tablet where they have access at all times, is there a time frame for the usage? Is there is it going to be put on there? These are the kind of questions as legislation builds, because this is, like I said, the contraband the act is only 10 years old. So these are the kind of things where, as advocates in the California system, like yourselves, it's going to be groundbreaking. It's going to be pioneering. And, these kind of conversations are what lobbyists will be looking for to answer and address. Because at the end of the day, when they do become citizens of society again, they're going to be looking to us for the answers. And our words will impact them in the long run. So yes, it will be a great benefit. It just depends on how and who regulates it in the long term for the positive.
Definitely. And I just want to wrap up by saying that this is by my personal research area, what I plan to do for my master's, and really evaluate the qualitative impacts of implementing this technology into the system and measuring all those different key performance indicators. Right, there's communication, there's education, there's entertainment, right? There's so many things that we can evaluate to be able to say, hey, this is bringing value to people who are in this position. It is preventing them from recidivism and once they are post-release. So it's you make a really great point that lobbyists and the people who are making the big decisions, this is what they're looking to. And I'm so blessed to be in California where this is happening. And we really thank you so much, Jonathan, for being with us today, because you definitely hit on so many good points. And Shani, do you want to go ahead and show that video to close us out?
What I was gonna do is like add it in after, like I'll look through the whole video and just add it in. I might put it in the front. You know what I'm saying? And
Yes.
Unless you want me to play it right now, but otherwise I'll go through it.
We can end the recording and then we can play it. Yes.
No, yeah, I was gonna say if you want to play it just to show Jonathan, that's fine. But then also, if we're gonna play it, if you want me to play it now, record it so that it's in the thing.
Okay.
Can we do that? And then actually, I can, if I need to mix the question, I'll cut it from here and I'll put it, wherever. Okay. So Jonathan, sorry, we're gonna keep you for 1 second so longer.
You're fine. I'm on the
And then do I have the capacity to share a screen, Nia?
Yes, you do.
All right, and I would say go ahead and did you hear them slam the door like that? I'm
going on the next trip.
Look at this. Wait, look at what they sent me. This is a message they wrote me. Can we go to the pool? Because they know don't be talking in my ear while I'm on the thing like that. Anyway, but I ain't answering because we're going to go snow. Anyways, long story short. Okay, so I'm gonna share the screen and I would say 1 moment and then go ahead and I guess I'll press record. Or are you gonna still
recording? It's still recording.
Okay. I don't know if this is a good one. I don't know if this
is the one. This is the one, I think.
I love my Squarespace site's simple and beautiful design. Welcome to Prison TikTok.
This is a stage stove.
Are you recording, Nia?
Melted hot pot. So we make our hot water in the morning for our coffee.
The lives of incarcerated people that were once hidden are now going viral thanks to the younger generation.
People became so hyped up about them, they get to see what it's like behind the wall, like a whole nother world.
Kevin Smith is one of dozens of people who have posted their prison experiences on the platform. Now we're seeing the daily meals.
That was a good tray that I posted. There's trays that are in there that are so gross, like it'll run away from you before you eat it.
Minimal outdoor time, and the how-tos for prison life hacks, like heating up hot water.
I mean, that's literally how we had to make hot water because we didn't have hot water spigots or anything. Everything on Canteen that they do sell requires to be cooked. So the only way to cook it is to MacGyver something.
And while cell phone footage from prisons has found its way on social media before,
people share this, man.
These TikToks are confronting misconceptions of prison life.
Wanted to show people what it was like inside, like behind the wall, and there's not all bad people in there.
Due to prisons being hidden and removed from society, mass incarceration in the U.S. is vastly misunderstood, with entertainment perpetuating ideas of rowdy prison life and those incarcerated drawn up as soulless criminals who are all dangerous to society.
Anger management, controlling the savage beast inside you.
But TikTok is challenging that.
People on the outside are seeing people on the inside as people.
Bianca Tylek is the founder and executive director of Worth Rises, a national criminal justice advocacy organization working to end the exploitation of people that it targets.
So I always knew that I wanted to, at some point, work on criminal justice issues.
She says TikTok is especially showing the realities of a younger generation that is incarcerated, which is resonating.
I'm gonna stop it. And
wow.
I know, right? And so I'm gonna stop the show so we can have a little conversation about that.
Yeah, put the link in the chat for us, please.
For sure. That so just to say that my boyfriend's in the other room and I could have him come in here and tell you about drinking water, right? And so the way that they would drink water was they would like get the brown water and then they would put it in those two, how you saw the two negative and positive, and they'll boil it overnight to get the brown and the gunk out of it. That's the only drinking water they had, and they'll drink the clear water off the top. And so I really I am really gonna watch the rest of that because it is true. A lot of the misconception of life inside is that like there is prison politics, right? And there is violence, but there's violence in the world. And I think it's really important to understand that like there's violence in the world. And to be honest, prison violence is extremely calculated, and it's like people know exactly what's going on, even the guards, right? And on top of that, that's not what life inside is about. Most of us are literally just trying to survive. In terms of innovation, you see people making roses out of Jolly Ranchers. You see people creating bags to go to the bathroom. You have to create things to wash your body, create things to take care of yourself. I remember tie-dyeing my underwear. So it's really just trying to make it through in a sense of normalcy. And I do think that social media is going to change that. Nia, I'll let you go ahead and pose that last question. And Jonathan, I really would love to hear what you have to say about what you saw.
Yes, so the last question is the role of social media in instilling humanity, kind of like what that video is trying to portray to us. But yeah, we would love to hear your thoughts and initial reactions.
Whoa, that video right there. Okay, see, I've never seen that before. That video, wow, or any video of that. Whew, okay. I'm thinking the bigger picture now, like, okay, when this hits mainstream, like, it's gonna be big. Oh my goodness. I mean, like I said, it's challenging an establishment, a private. When anything private to public, you know, you're gonna have a lot of pushback from people. Normally, are gonna restrict it out. That's why that thing went into place 10 years ago, because they were probably exposing things. And like I said, the jail part. Oh, you're in jail, you shouldn't be having access to the outside world. If you want to be technical, that's the outside world. You're still on the inside. So, I mean, wow. I mean, like I said, it's a, for the people, for the good, right? It's a monumental thing. It's until those individuals take of it and, you know, do the illegal, that's when it's a problem. So, yeah, wow. That's I'm so processing that, by the way.
It's real, you know, and I think the reality is, like, once again, like I said, it's, I mean, we can end, but, you know, it's not, we are no more criminal than anyone else. And that's the fact. The reality is that most of us get in the positions we're in based upon our own decisions and combined with circumstances. But, you know, shit, we trying to live. It's like looking at somebody, it's like we literally trying to live in an inhumane situation. And the situation, like you said, does not, and number one, it doesn't follow the guidelines of what it's supposed to do, but it also does nothing, it does nothing about what it says it's supposed to do. And I mean, there's so many contradictions in terms of what you experience incarcerated, in terms of like what it is for. So I'm so glad that you're even open to understanding this, Jonathan. I'm glad that we opened your eyes to it. Not to be funny, but I hope you look more into it and see, like, because there's this narrative. We just in jail. It's just like if you was a person just, you know, stuck out in a natural disaster, you're gonna do what you need to do. And that's the same way that we look at it. We just doing what we need to do. And, you know, the violence and all those other things that people look at, once again, I think it's really important to reiterate that I would be hard pressed to find out if the prison is any more violent than the streets, honestly. That's some research, that a question that definitely should be looked into. But I appreciate you, Jonathan, and I love your excitement.
Well, here goes the thing too. See, so I don't know if I told you this, but I actually just recently opened up a research, like social media research corp. So I put up a corporation for research and social media. So these are the kind of things where when I start applying to grants, when I start getting private individuals that are like, you know, I want to privately fund this, so we this data. These are the kind of conversations that I want to bring to UCLA, where I can say, hey, the Social Media Research Corporation is going to come and we're going to do research, you know, with your guys' company, your podcast, go interview people that, you know, were previously incarcerated, because, you know, they're probably going to not accept, you know, us coming in and talking to them about social media and that policy. But we can always find people that were previously in there who lived like yourself, and giving the raw, like Vice type interviews where it's uncut, because something like that right there, you can be an inventor. You could be someone that develops a new type of system that I've never even heard before. So there's all the type of possibilities. And like I said, this is new. This is within the first 10 years. So it's still new to me, new to the industry. So like I said, this is going to be an area where we definitely will be reconvening as I get more into it, and I know who's who in the industry and what's what, and seeing how we could start and possibly fund some research to get it done.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you again, Jonathan, so much. I'm gonna stop recording.